Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, more than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that. But don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, it's another week of CinemAddicts. This is episode 207. Eric Holmes, can you believe I actually said this is episode 207 of Find Your Film? What did you think of my faux pas? Bruce is going to put on his headphones in a second. What do you think, Eric Holmes?
No one heard it because you did a restart.
I did. I did a restart, but CinemAddicts. Bruce, I don't know if Bruce Purkey can actually hear me right now as I'm actually speaking on the mic. But Bruce Purkey, I made a big faux pas when I said "Find Your Film" instead of CinemAddicts. Am I getting senile in my old age? I just turned 52 about a couple of days ago. What do you think?
Was that looking forward to the wonder of grayness and the hair and the age.
Sure.
We can just keep having this episode over and over again and not even know we had it. It's going to be amazing.
This is not Find Your Film.
Episode 207 again.
Right, exactly. Episode 207, not again. Episode 207 of CinemAddicts. Find Your Film does exist. It is our interview arm of this whole CinemAddicts universe. Speaking of that arm, yes, Eric's been pointing to his arm about 10 minutes ago regarding our Patreon bonus. We did a Patreon bonus on filmmaker Christian Petzold. Our Patreon member, Kristen, wanted us to do a review of a couple of his movies. So we covered Phoenix, we covered Undine, or as Eric likes to put it, Undina, because that's how they pronounce Undine in the movie. And of course, Transit, a movie that's very confusing, but I loved it. But if you want to check out our profile on Christian Petzold, hit us up over on Patreon, which with a catch-all $5 per month. But I was mentioning Find Your Film. We do a lot of interviews there. A lot of those interviews have been done this week by Eric Holmes. Eric, what can you give people a preview as to what to expect on findyourfilms.com and our podcast regarding the interviews that were basically smashed you against the wall on Monday?
Actually, it wasn't bad. Did an interview with the producers of A Million Miles Away, of which we will talk about. Got to talk with the director Kevin Abrams about Marisol. I got to talk to him again because I talked to him in March about I Got a Monster, his documentary, and we will see if his narrative feature is as good as his documentary. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. And it is. And so sorry, Eric. And spoiler alert, Eric Holmes, can you mention the triple feature that you would pair Marisol with? What are the two other movies you had told listeners to watch? Marisol and what two other movies? Do you remember in the interview?
It was It was Maria Full of Grace and Killing of Two Lovers.
That's one answer. The other answer, which you said that in the interview, the other answer is, if you want to watch Kevin Abrams' movies, Marisol, which Bruce and Eric will be reviewing in a few moments, it's now available on VOD, again, directed by Kevin Abrams. Watch Marisol, watch I Got a Monster, but maybe there might be a movie you might want to see between both movies, Eric, and why?
Legend of Billie Jean.
Yes, The Legend of Billie Jean, and that's referenced in
I forgot all about that
with Kevin Abrams. So yeah, some really good stuff to watch regarding Marisol and the filmmaker Kevin Abrams. We're going to be doing that, A Million Miles Away. And do you have any other interviews that you did?
I did. Also did one with the writer-director of My Last Best Friend, Filippo Prandi, and Eric Roberts, and that was a pretty interesting interview as well. Not so high on that movie, but we'll get into that.
Okay.
But all three interviews went great, and and now we're here.
And very, very quickly, I don't know if I'm going to put all of these interviews this week, but at least this Friday or Sunday on Find Your Film podcast, Canary. There's a documentary we'll also be covering, centering on the life of Dr. Lonnie Thompson. I interviewed Danny O'Malley and Alex Rivest, I believe. They are very interesting filmmakers, and we're going to get to that review as well. And a lot of interviews this week, Eric and I did. What's it like to actually have a life, Bruce? Because are we just me and Eric? Are we just a bunch of nerds trying to talk to people with our microphone? And are you the smarter one for actually not doing this and actually living your life? Which I envy, because you're the more responsible out of us two. We're just nerdy interviewers.
I'm pretty nerdy. I just don't get to the interviews, but I envy you sometimes. But no, there's good and bad in both sides. But I mean, today I was out walking in the woods and looking at walking sticks and like walking stick bugs and things like that. So,
Walking
I
stick
had an
bugs.
idea too. There's the movie I watched. It was a different movie. It was about a quarry worker who digs in the quarry all day long, and he has a dinosaur that he falls in love with, and it's called Undino.
Dino, very good. I'm gonna bring out that rim shot that I have from Epidemic
You're
Sound just for
welcome.
that.
Yes.
Very, very good. Well, let's get to it. We have a lot of movies. A Million Miles Away, Marisol, The Outlaw Johnny Black, Canary, a lot of stuff. Before we get to it, I just wanted to really reiterate a couple of very quickly. Eric's been doing a little bit yeoman's work on findyourfilmpodcast.com. What can our Find Your Film and Cinematics listeners expect from that website, which you've been working on, that merch site?
Yes, we got a bunch of merch coming and going, coming and going. Two of the pieces of merch coming are, if you'll look behind me, if you're seeing, we have a bucket of blood script poster. So what I do is go, so what I'm doing with these are taking movies that are in the public domain. Right now we have a bucket of blood in Metropolis, but I'll see if I can find the script and then make take a old poster, and then if you look close, I got one that I did for I Am Legend. This is not up on the merch store because I Am Legend is not in the public domain, unfortunately. But if you can look up close, it's got a picture, but then it's got it's got the entire script. So if you look up close, you could read it. Not the preferred way to read a script, but it looks good on the wall. And so
that's very cool.
We got one up now for a bucket of blood in Metropolis, and that'll probably be up for maybe a couple weeks or a month, and then I'll take that down. And I got a couple other ones that I made that once I take those down, I'll put new ones up. So they're up for a limited time only for you to look at on the merch store, not buy, but then look at the new ones that's come up as well.
And I also requested that Eric put up a couple of our Find Your Film shirts because I told him, Eric, I'm going to actually buy a Find Your Film shirt for myself because I really love that black shirt that Eric worked on. So findyourfilmpodcast.com to see some of the merch stuff, some really good. And of course, we have the shower curtains. We don't have the horse-drawn carts, but the shower curtains are still there. And that's a callback to our Find Your Film days. Yes, Eric.
And we also have a CinemAddicts pickleball set.
Oh, CinemAddicts.
Ask me if I know how to play pickleball.
Oh,
I mean, if you got dicks, you got to have balls. That's what I heard.
Very good. That should be our mantra. Bruce Purkey, that should be our mantra. Oh, before we get to our features, lastly, bonus episode for September. I mentioned already Christian Petzold, which is in right now. I'll be working on editing this week. But our bonus episode for September are two films. This is the first time Eric and Bruce are hearing it. First one is my pick is Buffalo 66, and one of our Patreon members requested, like, hey, I forgot who it was, and I apologize, the Patreon app is not up right now. So on that, Patreon member mentioned a movie that I kind of said, hey, let's do it. So Buffalo 66 is my pick. The second pick is going to be, I believe, Myron, a fellow Patreon member. He picked Dark City, and there was no one else who was probably, I think Peter Beta threw down some recommendations as well, but I think Dark City and Buffalo 66 are our movies for the month. Bruce, your Rorschach initial take on Buffalo 66 and Dark City. Are you happy about it? You're reaching for something, or are you just reaching
for something? I think I have somewhere in here. Hang on. I'll put a headset.
Don't do that. Bruce is going to injure himself. Eric, tell. This
is a little bit of audio spackle for you.
It's by the way, Greg, it was Abby Schmidt that recommended the Buffalo 66, which, by the way, not a bad recommendation because it's been a while since I've seen it.
Thank you, Abby Schmidt, and Cloverfield and Dark City double feature. What the F kind of double feature is that?
I don't know, but I picked it up for a few bucks like a year ago, and I thought, what an excuse to watch Dark City. Yay.
Oh, wait, you have seen Dark City, right?
Yeah, it was a long time.
Oh, it's been
both of them. I haven't seen both of them probably when they came out, and that's the last time.
Okay. And Eric, you're okay with Buffalo 60? You said Buffalo 66 is a good selection from Abby Schmidt. Thank you for that. And what do you think of Myron's selection of Dark City? You're cool with that? Because you mentioned Metropolis, so I'm sure it's right up your alley.
I love the Crow. Alex Proyas.
Yeah.
I love the Crow mostly due to Brandon Lee because Brandon Lee is the best. Was the best.
Was the best.
Still is. Why the hell not? But Dark City is one. So I seen that a long time ago. That one didn't grab me.
Mhm.
So it'll be good to kind of go back to that and see if maybe I like a little better this time around. I know Dark City is like one of those that people love, and kind of similar to what's that one with Russell Crowe?
LA
Uh,
Confidential,
no, when he's on the sea,
The Nice
the
Guys. Oh,
Master and
Master
Commander.
Commander. Okay.
Master and Commander, first time I saw that movie, I hated it. And so many people were talking about how great it was. I was like, I must have missed something. And then I put it on again. I was like, oh yeah, this is a good movie. I just missed out. So
Okay.
I'm hoping that Dark City is kind of one of those sort of deals, but
Oh,
we'll see.
okay, so listeners, join us on our Cinematics Patreon. Again, we have director spotlights for members, member only director spotlights or movie spotlights for members only. And we have every month we have that bonus episode. This month we're going to be doing Buffalo 66 and Dark City, spotlighting the year 1998. The year, however, for this episode is the year 2023. We are going to be covering our movies right now. Let's start off with a movie called Marisol, just so I could actually stop speaking. It's now available on VOD. It's reviewed by Eric and Bruce. Eric, why don't you take it away regarding the plot synop of Marisol?
Yeah, so Marisol is well, let's see. So Marisol, she's a undocumented immigrant, but she doesn't know that she is. And so she goes to school, and there's this little kid, and I don't remember what his character's name is, and I cannot find him on the IMDb.
Justin?
But
I think it's Justin.
is it Justin?
You talking
Okay.
about the not great kid?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's he kind of has well, he's kind of an a-hole. He's kind of negging her a bit. And then, I'm just joking. And then he's trying to he seems to have some sort of, attracted to her. And then she's not interested because he was a dick to her pretty early on. Then they go to a party. The kid's there. Marisol shows up kind of begrudgingly because she's like, trying to do the school stuff, but whatever. And her friend talks her into going, and she goes there, and a thing happens. Fireworks end up happening. And then Marisol moves one of the Roman candles around, ends up starting a fire. It was a complete accident. Before that happens, the a-hole kid tries to stand up for Marisol, and she's like, just back off. And he's like, I'm trying to help you. It's like the nice guy not being a nice guy, that sort of thing. And so he gets angry at her, and then he starts going on these websites of like illegal immigrants coming into America and taking our gerbs and whatnot. And he basically kind of F's over Marisol's entire family by kind of reporting that and starting a whole issue. What Marisol doesn't know, we know that she's an undocumented immigrant. She doesn't. She was an undocumented immigrant when she was like 6 months old or something, and her family never told her about it. And so she's kind of got to go. She goes to I believe they call them coyotes. I'm not sure what, but she goes to someone that's trying to relocate her, kind of Underground Railroad kind of situation. While ICE is trying to track her down, and while she's gone, they're causing problems for her entire family, and the a-hole kid is not helping. This when I say this has kind of elements of Killing of Two Lovers, that is more of the kind of the tone and the pace and look of this movie is kind of similar to that. The Maria Full of Grace is someone you're rooting for in a situation that they really don't want to be in, and so you're rooting for them. This is a fantastic movie by Kevin Abrams, who also did I Got a Monster. Watch the documentary I Got a Monster, and written by Clara Guayo. This is a great movie, and you should watch it. The Esmeralda Camargo, who played Marisol, is absolutely dynamite in this. The kid that plays the a-hole, also dynamite, because I just wanted to choke the living crap out of him the entire time. So you figure if like you get a character that's that's that like sniveling and evil, you just want to choke the crap out of him. I'm guessing he's not that way in real life, so I have to assume that he's also great in this. This yeah, we can't talk about the end. I suppose we could, but well, I know Bruce for sure wants to talk about the end. But yeah, this is a great movie. Very very suspenseful, especially in a certain part where one of the places that Marisol ends up gets raided is probably one of the best action scenes that's it's not an action scene you think of as an action scene, but it's pretty well done. This movie is really great all around, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it. I'm in the bag for this.
All right. Yeah, I quite like this movie too. I would say I was a little colder on it at the beginning, partly because at the beginning I thought it was going to be a little more stereotypical than it ended up being. Because the beginning it started out and I was like, okay, this Justin guy is a little bit too much of a twirling mustache kind of dude. But then as I thought about it, I was like, he's like your classic incel dude, really.
Yeah.
He really likes the girl. He doesn't have any clue on how to approach a woman in a healthy, normal way. So, of course, when she logically is like, hey, dude, back off, he reacts in the most outward way opposite to that and really just goes down a dark hole. And he's not even aware of what he's doing, as bad as he's doing it. Although he's got that troll energy too, where it's like he even talks at one point. He even acts at one point. I'm not gonna say what he does exactly, but he acts at one point like he's playing a video game, and not even thinking about the fact that these are actual people and actual lives that he's affecting and what he's actually doing, And I think to that degree, it's similar to what some of these shooters that you hear about, and how they're so embroiled in this online like life that they kind of lose track of the reality of humanity. But I think the real strength of this movie, two things. The real strength is once she hits the road, there's kind of this dual story going on. And it's her story meeting people she doesn't know who are trying to help her get away, and kind of just how that plays out, and see her mom and stuff. She's trying to see her mom. There's a bunch of stuff she's trying to do. It becomes kind of a road movie. And it's a real nice, subtle drama during that whole period with that underlying threat of what's happening to her family and what might happen to her. And at the same time, we're following this kid go into a darker and darker hole of just making life worse and worse for everyone around him, including himself, and just kind of hating him, but also seeing that, in a sense, he's a tragic figure too, because he's just so misguided and so not even self-aware of what's going on with himself. But I think the best thing about this movie, the thing that really turned me, I mean, I was okay with it throughout, but the final third, and especially the finale of this movie, on how it plays out for all of the characters, especially for Justin, how it plays out for Marisol, I'll just leave it at that, really surprised me, and was really impactful, and I think was very, very good the way it ended.
One of the things I loved about the a-hole kid was typically that kind of behavior that he has is learned by the parents.
Yeah.
But they made it very clear that the dad is not that way at all.
Yep.
And so this is stuff that he's learned, because he's embarrassed or whatever. Incel was actually probably nailed it on that was the word I was looking for that I can kind of pull in. But this is stuff he's learning from online, and it was really refreshing to see that kind of dynamic of especially when the dad finds out what his son's doing and why his son's doing it. He's just like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so disappointed. And I cannot believe that I raised this kind of son.
And the final little bow I would put on it is that they could have played out the Justin character as just a pure cartoon, but they kind of kept going with his character more than they had to, and I really appreciated that. Even though you still pretty much hate him throughout, they show some humanity there by the
Yeah.
end. And similarly, they could have made all of the agents, all of the police, ice people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ice agents, all of them could have just been as stereotypical as possible too, and that wasn't the case either. So there's a lot more complexity kind of on all sides of this movie than it had to have, and I think that's much appreciated in a movie like this.
Okay, so that is Marisol, now available on DVD and not on DVD, now available on VOD. I apologize for that. Directed by Kevin Abrams. Marisol, what is your rating, Eric, on it?
It's probably a 5-star for me. But much like Killing Two Lovers and Maria Full of Grace, I love those movies, and I love this movie for the exact same reasons. Similar tone, similar feeling watching it, and there's just some stuff in this that happens, character stuff that happens that you don't normally see in movies like this. So yeah, I gotta go 5.
Okay, Bruce.
I'd probably go 4 stars. I was a little cooler on the first third, but it really pulled it around in the second 2/3 of this movie. So I'll go 4 stars for this.
Okay, so that is Marisol, again, now available on VOD. Next up is a movie called Canary. It's specifically a documentary on Dr. Lonnie Thompson. He is described in the movie as sort of a Clark Kent, Indiana Jones figure, and you're thinking, a doctor being like Indy, what is this about? Well, he's devoted his life as a glaciologist to travel the world, specifically, I mean, especially Peru. Peru is very front and center in this documentary. He goes to the highest mountains to inspect various glaciers to spotlight different ice core readings. He takes ice core, he drills into the glaciers with a team, of course, takes out as much ice cores as possible to bring it back to wherever his lab or whatever for research, because with global warming, you never know if these ice cores will be available. These ice cores, obviously, they map out the history of our world existence. Dr. Lonnie Thompson, again, has made it's been a lifelong passion for him to go to these different areas of the world to extract this very important ice cores from the earth. And you might think, oh, is this a preachy global warming kind of situation? Though there are moments which, understandably, they talk about climate change, it's really a focus on the different areas that Dr. Lonnie Thompson visits, the toll it's taken on his family, the various life challenges he had along the way. He's not a spring chicken anymore. He is a senior, and it's pretty inspiring for him to see him actually go out and visit some of these areas and still do what he's doing today. That is the premise of Canary. It is in select theaters Friday, September 15th, with one-night theatrical engagements starting on Wednesday, September 20th. Eric Holmes, your thoughts on Canary?
Canary started off pretty good because I knew a little bit about ice cores, but they really drove home about like how dire that is and how quickly you have to move with that, because as the glaciers melt, the history begins disappearing. So the science of it was really good. And then they repeated it, and then they repeated it again. I'm like, okay, I get that. Okay, let's move past this. I got it. I think where this movie shines the best, and I don't think this is it's definitely the fault of the filmmakers for putting it in. I don't know that they could have predicted that this would happen. This would be like an example of life imitating art, where the was it Lonnie?
Yeah,
is the
Lonnie
main
Thompson.
guy.
Yeah, Dr. Lonnie Thompson.
He gets goes to the hospital for a heart thing, and he's dying, and he's not listening to the science, to his own detriment. And what's the one thing he complains about as far as global warming? People don't listen to the science to their detriment. I thought that was great that they kind of drove home that he's like, look, this is what's happening. You know, we got global warming. Eventually, if humans don't listen to the science, they're gonna pay the price. And then he doesn't quite understand why people won't listen. And then he himself has his own thing where the scientists are saying, your heart's failing. You need a heart transplant. If you don't, you will die. And it's like, maybe they're wrong. It was like that. There was what's the word?
Divide. There's a divide between
Disconnect, maybe.
Disconnect.
Yeah, the hypocrisy. That's what I'm looking for. And so I love that they put that in there. That the one person is preaching a thing, and then they don't take their own advice when it hits home with their own personal lives. And I thought that was a great thing to put in the documentary, because it not only because we've all heard the thing about global warming, but this thing that's personal to him, it drives home, because it's like why wouldn't you listen to the science? But I think people can relate to, I have to do this, I can't listen to the doctors. It drives home the idea of why don't you listen to the science? It's so clear. We've all had issues where the answer is right there in front of us, and we choose not to listen to it for reasons that don't really make sense. Okay. And the issue with global warming is just a global scale of that kind of personal thought that we all may have or may not have had from time to time.
Bruce, do you think that maybe they could have said it a little bit more succinctly, this documentary? Did it repeat itself a little bit too much for you two?
Maybe a little bit. I mean, this is one of those documentaries that's really hard for me to judge too, because I always when I watch these, I always wonder, like, well, how does this play for someone who knows nothing about it, or how does it play for someone who is a total non-believer, or how does it play for someone who doesn't really have scientific background or interest? So I think it really varies depending on those kind of, like, what you bring to the table, I guess. So maybe for someone who comes to the table and doesn't have really any belief in science, or maybe not much background in any kind of scientific interest, then it would probably be good to kind of really kind of follow it step by step the way they do. But for me, I could imagine it being, cut by 20, 30 minutes and really being a perfectly tight documentary. And I kind of was like with Eric. There's a point where you're kind of like, okay, well, now where are we going now? We got this. And then when they bring in the stuff about his health and all that, that really kind of brought things back around. I love the fact that he's older, because one thing that does do is it kind of is like, oh, canary in a coal mine, right? That's the comparison. They talk about his coal mining heritage, which is really interesting and a nice tie-in with the fossil fuels and how that's basically caused all of this. But the idea that, if he's the canary in the coal mine, well, this is the canary in a coal mine where it's like, it's instead of dying when the gas comes into the coal mine, it says to all the miners, hey, miners, you're going to die soon. You better get out of the mine. And all the miners are like, yeah, no problem. We'll keep mining. And the canary just stays with them the whole time and is dying of old age and still yelling at them. hey, the ass is still here. It's getting worse. Shut up, canary. Go ahead and just die. So it's kind of interesting that he isn't this, I forget her name. The real famous activist. She was a girl and now she's a woman. In Scandinavia, and she's the devil child of the right? But no, this is some dude who's been doing this and talking about it for 40 years.
40 years, yeah,
like
40
that.
years, yeah.
So this is a dude that's been there. He's marched his way up and down these mountains for 40 years. He is just saying the same thing for 40 years, and that alone should tell you something, and it should have a little more impact than the young kid that just thinks they know it all and is trying to tell me, an older person, what's going on. So I kind of like that aspect of it.
Greta Thunberg.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I thought that was a very interesting look at his life. I was really pretty much bowled over and inspired by the fact that he's carrying the equipment up the mountains at that high elevation. And he's just where I think I don't know what the town, I forgot the name of the town in Peru, but they were saying once you reach the edge of that town, a lot of people haven't been to the mountains that lead to the glaciers, because there is a criminal element there. You enter at your own risk. So a lot of his life has been traveling to these unreachable places, seemingly so, at his own risk and at the risk of the people who decide to go along with him. Just a very interesting documentary for me. So my rating on Canary is 4.5 stars. Love, love, love this documentary. And again, my interviews with the filmmakers, I'll be posting it up on findyourfilms.com and as well as our Find Your Film podcast. Bruce, what is your rating on Canary?
I was going back and forth between 3.5 and 4. I think I'll lean towards 4 because I believe it's got enough really good stuff in there, and it's got enough importance, I guess, to it that I'll give it a 4.
4 for Bruce. And what about you, Eric?
This is a story that's been told to death, beat over our head, and we're stupid humans and we don't get it. So normally, like without the bit about his health and him denying the science there, I think it probably would have been a 3. Like definitely important, but no one's going to listen to it. But I'm hoping that little extra added of him being the hypocrite and maybe that personal touch would kind of pull people into the importance of climate change a little more than they would otherwise. So I will go 4, but like normally this is something that'll be talked to death until we're all dead, which no one's going to listen. So
pretty much that's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
that's a 4-star.
It sucks to say, but I mean, how many times do we got to be told about climate change and not do anything about it?
I mean, I had to look up climate change after watching Canary. I had no idea what it was, so I'm really excited to come here. I was just trying to put a little bit of sun. Yeah, albeit
was that after or before the hurricane that hit LA?
Right, exactly. Very good, Bruce. Very, very good. 4 for Eric, 4 for Bruce, 4.5 for me. Again, Canary, Friday, September 15th, as well as one-night engagements starting September 20th. Canary, Dr. Lonnie Thompson is the subject. Now let's get to a movie that Eric and I saw. Eric actually did the interviews with the producers of A Million Miles Away. Hits Prime Video on September 15th. And it's the true story of Jose Fernandez, played by who, Eric Holmes? Who plays Jose Fernandez?
As Michael Pena.
Michael Pena, he has had a varied and excellent career. This is currently, I'm trying to think right off the top of my head, this is my favorite Michael Pena performance. Such an amazing performance. Okay, so Jose Hernandez, he is, quote, the first migrant farm worker to become an astronaut and go to space. So what you're thinking, it comes out on Prime Video, co-stars Rosa Salazar as Jose's wife. And I should have her IMDb, what her name is. I'll look that up in a second, but she's very good in this movie. Pena is good in this movie, and it centers on his life as starting from a child migrant farm worker to an astronaut. That's sort of that's the story. And Michelle Krusiak, she plays the elementary school teacher who inspires Jose Hernandez at an early age to not become an astronaut. Jose already had that dream, but to inspire him to follow his dreams. So you're thinking, okay, this seems like a very predictable, syrupy, feel-good movie kind of thing. And it is a feel-good film, but my goodness, it is so well made. It didn't have to be well made. It could have been just as predictable, just by the numbers film, and it still would have worked. But this goes above and beyond. It is a great film. I think A Million Miles. I teared up several times in this movie. I thought I was blown away by A Million Miles Away. I was going in kind of kicking and screaming before watching. I was saying, okay, another movie that I'm going to watch, predictable. Okay, whatever. But I really hope our CinemAddicts audience, listeners, gives A Million Miles Away a shot. Eric, am I overshooting my mark review on A Million Miles Away, or are you on this boat?
No, I think you're right on. The only thing I would push back on is that this movie's absolutely predictable. You could not spoil this movie, but it doesn't matter because I think with Michael when I interviewed the producer, basically I was just reviewing the movie at that point because I loved it so much. But it's definitely has a melodrama to it. I think what really cements this movie is the relationship between Michael Pena and Rosa Salazar's character. Because as I mentioned,
Adela is a wife. Adela,
yeah,
that's the name.
Jose and Adela. As I mentioned with the producers, like normally Adela in a movie like this is a speed bump for the protagonist. and and that's kind of what it feels like it's starting off as. But she actually, her and because this spans decades pretty much. As the family grows and Della and then their children as they get older, it makes it very clear that Jose's journey is not easy on the family, and you get to see how the family kind of comes together and supports Jose in his dream, even though it's hurting him. And so it really helps you kind of lean in and really root for them to get ahead, even though A, it's going to happen, and B, not B. The B would be the family dynamic in this. It's normally just kind of tacked on in movies like this.
It's so interesting.
Actually helps to elevate it. It actually helps you root for him. And Michael Payne is like, he's just a charming screen presence anyway. Like, they could have had none of that, and you would still want to root for him just because Michael Payne comes off as that kind of guy.
We also have to mention, though. Go ahead.
And then Michelle Krusik, they had her in there early on, and then when she shows up again at the end,
is that a spoiler, Eric? Is that a spoiler?
It is.
Is that a spoiler? I'm cutting that out. I'm cutting that out, Eric.
But
you're not. You're talking on edited material. But what?
But the producers brought it up in the interview without me even mentioning it, so maybe it's fine.
I would have yelled at the producers too. That was a total spoiler, but we're going to keep it in because the producers kept keeping it in. I'm sorry, it's not my fault.
I won't say what it is, but what when Michelle Krusik comes back, oh my god, my heart just melted. And this is kind of like a movie that allows you to do that. It allows you to just kind of get into it and feel all the feels that you're going to feel. Spoiler alert, Michael Pena makes it to space. Spoiler alert, everything turns out right. But this isn't a kind of movie that relies on will he or won't he. You're going to feel that anyway, just because of the family dynamics. They're going to get there. It's just a matter of how they get there, and what they say, it's the journey, it's not the destination.
Right. Chairman of the board, Bruce Purkey, your vote. Producers said the spoiler. I'm mad at them. I'm mad at Eric. Do I cut it out or do I keep it in? You're the president. You're the boss. You're the jefe. El jefe. What do you say, Bruce? You're the vote.
This sounds like the kind of spoiler that I will forget. And when I watch the movie, I won't remember that it was a spoiler. And then I'll be like, oh, yeah, they did tell me about that. By the time I find out, I'll be like already enjoying the movie. So
we're going to keep it in. We're going to keep it in.
There's also a bunch of stuff in this that I kind of saw coming a mile away.
Of course.
But when it's kind of like when someone tells a joke that you really like, the punchline, but you're just so excited to hear them say the joke again.
Like my Undino joke, exactly like that, right? Like
exactly. That. Yeah, exactly.
You made me do another rim shot,
but
like that. How dare you?
Like when the emotional thing's about to happen, like they show their hand well before they throw it out on the table, so it's coming. But then when it happens, it's like, oh, here it comes, and then the thing happens, like, oh, it happened, oh, I'm so happy, or I'm so sad happy, or whatever it is. And we
have to give props to go ahead, Bruce.
I would say this sounds like the kind of movie, obviously I have not seen it, sounds like the kind of movie where, like you said, like the things come, they're coming, the beats are there, but you're happy that those beats are coming because it's the kind of movie you want them to come.
Yes, Bruce. Yes. And I will tell you, Bruce, we all three of us, we have a lot of movies we cover every week. And I think one of the complaints that I have for myself is we see so many movies that it's hard to hold on to them for the next week because we're covering more movies. And that's why there's a lot of service with our members of our CinemAddicts Facebook group, just some really great members. And they actually keep us in check, like make us remember the movies that we reviewed the prior weeks, maybe weeks later. So please join our CinemAddicts Facebook group. You know what? I say join our CinemAddicts Facebook group, and I actually asked for some feedback. I forgot to put the feedbacks in our Google Notes. So members, Peter Beta, Joseph Bridges, I heard your stuff about Ivan Dixon, that filmmaker. You guys, some great members who give us some really great insights. I hope all the members see A Million Miles Away. And because of all the movies that all three of us see every week, this is the one. I think this is the first time I'm going to say this in a while, Bruce. you are in a huge deficit by not watching A Million Miles Away. You couldn't because you're watching 10 movies a week. It's one of those movies that I think you're gonna miss it. And I wanted to, one more thing before I'm gonna throw it to you, Eric. Julio Cesar Cedillo, he's Salvador, the father of Jose, and then also Bobby Soto, who was in The Tax Collector, the lead in The Tax Collector. He plays Beto, the cousin of Jose. Both of these are excellent, and so many great performances all across the board. I had no idea how much I would love this movie. Eric, final thoughts on A Million Miles Away?
Yeah, if you just watch this is like a good like counter programming to just watch a bunch of bummers or like movies that kind of got me down in the dumps. This is a movie that's gonna kind of lift you up a bit. This is kind of the palate cleanser that I think people need for a lot of movies. Completely predictable, very melodramatic, and
Emotional.
the movie knows it, emotional, but the movie knows it, and it kind of leans into that, and it does it extremely well. Rosa Salazar's character, Rosa Salazar is great in this. Michael Pena obviously is great. That their relationship is wonderful and kind of carries this movie. And of course, anything Michelle Cusack's in, I'm gonna watch. So yeah,
she's a good filmmaker, very good filmmaker, right?
And she's got another one coming out, Tiger Mom. I think she wrote it and probably acting it. I don't know, but definitely keep an eye out for that. But A Million Miles Away, it's all the science stuff is there that I'm really interested. All the emotional family drama, melodramas in there that I really respond to. This might be a movie that some people watch. It's like, oh, it's predictable. Oh, it's saccharine, whatever. This is not going to be your movie, but
it's really well made in that genre. It's such a well made movie.
Yeah,
right.
In fact, I was also talking to the producer. We talked about Miracle. That's a perfect movie to compare to this one because it's the movie. You know how it's going to end. You know how the beats are going to play out, but it's so comforting and makes you feel good watching it. I really loved A Million Miles Away.
Before you give your rating, Eric Holmes, how many times did you almost cry in this movie? For me, it was twice. What about you?
I almost cried 0 times. I did cry about 5 or 6 times.
Look, Bruce, maybe I think I might have cried 10 times. Does that make me less of a man than Eric Holmes in general?
Yes, less of a man.
Okay, I cried 69 times. Beat that.
And third rim shot on this one. Thanks, Bruce. What? Very good, Eric Holmes, for that. Just you are a strong human being. Well, I'm gonna give my rating first. 5 stars. 5 stars. I'm sorry. 5 stars and A Million Miles Away. I don't know, Eric. I topped that one. I'm telling you, it's so good. Yeah. It's so good.
I kind of want to give it 5 stars, and in my heart, I want to, but this seems like a 3-star banger because this is like one of those type of movies that if you're into these type of movies, this is like one of the like top tier of this type of movie. If you're not, you're going to watch this movie with your arms crossed and I don't like this. So, but oh God, I feel so good watching this.
Yes.
And I'll go 5 stars on this too. I really love it. Like this is a movie I could watch over and over again.
And Bruce Purkey, he gives it 3 rim shots, or a future 5-star banger, Bruce, possibly, or possible.
Maybe, I don't know.
This gave me the same feeling I got from watching Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. But I think
yes, exactly.
Yeah. But I hate to say it, I prefer this movie to Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. That's how much I love A Million Miles Away. Let's see if I'm wrong. Let's see if Eric's wrong. Let us, CinemAddicts listeners, or in Bruce Purkey, maybe whenever you have time, tell us what you guys think of A Million Miles Away. Let us wrap up our featured reviews with a solo act from Eric Holmes, Michael J. White, or Michael Jai White.
Michael Jai White from Gigantic Studios.
From Gigantic Studios. The Outlaw Eric Holmes, aka the Outlaw Johnny Black, is the movie that hits theaters September 15th from Samuel Goldwyn Films. Spotlight here on Eric Holmes for the review. What you think? What is it about?
So the easiest comparison would be this is Black Dynamite in the Old West. Also written by Michael Jai White and Byron Mins, who I believe was one of the co-writers of Black Dynamite. Where this goes much different, I'm assuming a lot of people listening to this has seen Black Dynamite. I know Bruce has. Greg, have you?
No.
So Black Dynamite, they basically take a bunch of black exploitation movies and send them up. It's basically a comedy spoof of black exploitation movies. Where this one's different. This one's not really so much a spoof of westerns. They kind of play it straight with the western, but there's still a lot of comedy in this that you would find in Black Dynamite. But this doesn't go as broad. Like, this doesn't come off as a spoof so much. They do lean into some of the western movie tropes, and but like the oh shoot, what's his name? I have nothing up. I have nothing up at all. One second. No, I can't find it. Anyway, the main, I think his name's something Clayton. I cannot find the name. But anyway, the main bad guy, he works really good in this. Michael Jai White is the hero, is a really good hero. Like it's a really decent western, like taken at face value. And then you have the comedy kind of thrown into it. There's some comedy that kind of leans more towards Blazing Saddles. There's one scene in particular.
So wait, is it kind of more of a comedy or more of a drama?
That's just it. It kind of plays in both fields.
Okay.
It goes plays western dead serious, and then it goes into comedy. So the tone is kind of back and forth throughout, but for me, it kind of worked throughout. In fact, one of the things, if I had a critique on Black Dynamite, is that they didn't lean into the black exploitation as much as they leaned in on the parody of black exploitation.
Chris Browning is the actor playing Brett Clayton. Is that the main bad guy?
Yes.
Chris Browning.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if I had as much as I love Black Dynamite, if I had one critique on it, I wish they would have leaned more into the black exploitation and took that a little more seriously than they did, instead of just sending it up the entire time. This one leaned into the western, they lean into the tropes and everything, but they take the western portion of it seriously. But then they still find time to throw in the silly jokes here and there.
Okay.
And so it kind of works. One thing, a couple things to note is that there's some, okay, here's one of the jokes. One of the guys, like, he goes up to Outlaw Johnny Black, and he's like, you need to get out of here, you dirty nit. And then Johnny Black kicks him in the face and he lays on the ground. I was going to say nincompoop. Like they have stuff like that. There's a lot of Blazing Saddles kind of humor in here. In fact, at one point, a giant person punches a horse and knocks him down. Like, they completely take that. There's a Revenge of the Nerds-esque scene that might turn some people off, as it does in because there's someone having sex with someone in Revenge of the Nerds that they didn't know. They kind of have a scene like that in here that might throw some people off, but I don't know. It's a little different. But beyond that, I think and then there's also some gay panic in this as well. So if any of that's an issue with you, then you might want to steer clear of this. Other than that, the jokes land for the few jokes that they have, they really land for the most part. And I got really invested in the Western story is kind of what you would expect in a Western story. And that worked for me as well. So
okay. So how is Jai White as the director?
Pretty good. I mean, he's no Sergio Leone, but I think he did a good job of balancing the comedy and the serious aspects of the Western. So I thought he did pretty good.
Okay, so Outlaw Johnny Black. I was mistaken. I said The Outlaw Johnny Black. It's Outlaw Johnny Black is the true title. Eric, what is your rating?
This might be a 3-star banger. This might be 4 stars. I'm not sure. I'm gonna go 3 banger. Because I think fans of Black Dynamite are going to dig it. Just know ahead of time that this is not as over the top as Black Dynamite is. But if you like Black Dynamite, I would definitely give this a shot. If you watch Black Dynamite and you didn't like it, and you don't like Westerns, this might not be for you. So we'll go 3-star banger.
Okay. Also, I believe coming out on Friday, Eric, do you remember My Last Best Friend? You said you want to say a couple words about this before
Yeah.
we end?
Yeah,
My Last
so
Best Friend?
I interviewed the writer director and Eric Roberts. This kind of a strange movie. It's very low budget. I guess the best parts of this movie is Eric Roberts because he kind of plays against himself. He plays two characters that live together. This is like during the I don't know if it's shot during the COVID pandemic, but this is when the movie takes place, and he's kind of it's himself talking with his roommate, also played by himself, and they both have the same name. The story kind of goes all over the place and wasn't really kind of dialed in. A lot of the dialogue is kind of not great, but with a lot of the actors in it, it kind of comes off as not great. For some reason, when Eric Roberts is saying the dialogue, it kind of works. So good on him for that. A lot of the scenes with both Eric Roberts, they do some really clever like camera stuff that works out really good. In fact, this whole movie is like I think the filmmaker kind of leaned more in on style and didn't put as much thought or care into. I hate to criticize the script, of which I have not read, but just based on what the characters are saying, like a lot of the dialogue just comes off as kind of amateur almost. That said, like there's a little bit of good filmmaking here and there. Overall, the movie doesn't come together, and also there's some strange choices with like a green screen. We've seen this in like The Room, where Tommy Wiseau comes out and he's like outside just in a city, but they green screen it for some reason. It's like why would you green screen it? Like you'd have characters like in a room, but they clearly green screened the room, so it didn't quite make sense why they would do that. There's a bunch of really strange choices in this that I think lean more towards the filmmaker being really ambitious towards making a stylized movie, that they didn't put enough care into the script, if that's the case. And I think they probably should have done it. And had it not been for Eric Roberts kind of holding the scenes together where he's playing against himself, this is pretty much a miss all around.
Okay, so it's centers on New York City, beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. There's two men. They're both named Walter,
Sure.
and they see their lives getting turned upside down. One of them is ill, and the other one is probably just as sick because he's being investigated by an FBI special agent named John McCallany. It runs at 105 minutes. It opens in LA on Wednesday, September 20th, and Brooklyn on Friday at the Stewart Cinema, September 15th. Eric, what is your rating on the movie on My Last Best Friend?
Oh, so next movie. Go.
Okay, next movie. That is a
this one.
No ratings?
Zero? This is
No.
probably like one and a half. This one's not good. And I feel bad about it because the director interviewing him, he comes across as someone that really enjoys making movies, and I hate to discourage him, and I don't want to discourage him from moving forward.
Okay.
But I mean, if he takes critique well, I would say concentrate on the script, get that in place, put the ambition towards making a fancy looking movie. Get rid of that ambition. Keep your ambition towards the story. Keep your ambition towards the characters, and I think you'll do well in the future. But this did not work for me.
Okay, and before we go, Bruce, do you have anything else to say before we get to our also coming out this Friday? Do you want to say anything, or do you want to just lead out with what's coming out? Just the time.
We can just leave out with what's going out. I don't have anything big to talk about this week.
Nothing big to talk about this
But
week.
we do need to pick a movie for the box, though, at some point.
Okay, we'll talk about the box in a second, but we're going to talk about what's coming out on September 15th. I hope you find something really good to shake down there on the box. Oh, the box movie that you review.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Well, no, we have to pick one out of the box for the next time.
Oh, for the next time. Okay, so but
Yes.
we don't have a box movie to review this week, right?
We do not.
Oh, yeah, because do you want to talk about those other couple movies maybe down the road next week? You want to do that?
Yeah, sure. We can push them off.
You sure?
They're
You sure?
they're
I'm
they're
just-
evergreen. They can always be talked about another time.
Okay, you did too many rim shots on this episode, Bruce Purkey. Also coming out on September 15th. Why don't you take the first two off the top, Eric Holmes, and I'll bring up the rear, as one would say. Why don't you the first two on the Google Doc? You have the Google Doc in front of you.
But what
Movies
we're
coming
looking
out
at?
September 15th. Or I can.
Oh,
thing.
yeah. I got you.
first two. You do
You
the
know
first
what? We
two.
got 4 of them here. I'll do
Four?
one. You do one. I'll do one, and you do one.
Okay, cool.
You know,
You
just
do the first two.
Do a
First two.
little. We'll play a bit of movie catch.
Okay. Okay.
First off, we got A Haunting in Venice. This is the Kenneth Branagh movie back as Poirot. This is what would they have, the Murder on the Orient Express, and then
Yes.
he did the second one, and this is the
Death on the
third
Nile.
one.
Yeah, this is the third
Death
one.
on the Nile, and this is the third one. I actually like his Murder on the Orient Express. Death on the Nile was pretty decent, and so maybe this one will be good too. I'm kind of not a big fan of Kenneth Branagh, but I do like him as Poirot. He's definitely over the top, but I kind of dig him. So maybe this will be a good one with Tina Fey, Jamie Dornan, and Michelle Yeoh. So yeah.
Okay, that's coming out September 15th. Also coming out is Camp Hideout. It's a comedy about this dude, his teenager named Noah. He's played by Ethan Drew. He steals a top secret gadget from a bunch of big city bad guys. So what he does is he leaves a big city, goes into he hides out. It's like hiding out, like John Cryer. He hides out in a summer camp. That movie with Cryer wasn't a summer camp, but this one is. It's called Camp Hideout, and he's in the summer camp trying to hide out. It is run by this dude named Falco, not the singer. Falco is played by Christopher Lloyd, most recently seen in not Back to the Future, but Nandor Fodor and the Talking Mongoose, a movie that I loved, Eric loved, and Bruce,
Yes.
if I recall, kind of, sort of recommends, and a mild recommend. But anyways, Christopher Lloyd's in it, and also Corbin Bleu and Amanda Layton. That is Camp Hideout, teen comedy on September 15th. What else you got, Eric?
Next up, we got El Conde. Hits Netflix September 15th. Official plot synopsis. The story revolves around Augusto Pinochet, who's not dead, but an aged vampire. I didn't read this beforehand.
No.
Is not dead, but an aged vampire who, after 250 years in this world, has decided to die once and for all due to ailments brought about by his dishonor and family conflicts. Directed by Pablo Larraín, whose past credits include Jackie and Spencer. Oh, it's so I'm in. A vampire he was like, I'm done. I want to die.
That sounds really weird for Pablo Larraín, but I know. Interested.
We'll see if it works. Eric, I'm going to actually swap with you because I'm going to take the last one. You're going to take Elevator Game in a second. Love at First Sight also opens Friday on Netflix, and I can tell you right now, it's not a movie for Bruce Purkey. It might be a movie for Eric Holmes. It's a rom-com. I'm not saying you're not romantic, Bruce. It stars Haley Lou Richardson and Ben Hardy. Ben Hardy's an Englishman, okay, and Haley Lou Richardson's an American. They meet cute in a sort of in the airport, and they're both late for their flight to London, and they catch the flight together. They bond, and a lot of it takes place. First quarter takes place of them just bonding in the flight, in the airplane flight. They land in London, they land in England, and they lose each other. And the rest of the movie deals with how both of them are trying to find each other, and both of them are trying to figure out if that love at first sight is actually going to hold some water. Will this love story work? Again, it's a very interesting movie. It streams Friday on Netflix. Here's the thing. It seems like a very meet cute, light romantic comedy, but it's really it has a lot of dramatic elements to it. So it's a lot more deeper than I thought. I would actually recommend Love at First Sight. If you are a Haley Lou Richardson fan, especially from her work in that movie Columbus, she does a little bit of that Columbus riff in Love at First Sight. She is very, very good in this movie. Okay, so that is that. Eric, what you got for the last one for September 15th?
Last one is Elevator Game. This one I'm pretty interested in too. It's apparently about a guy who goes around debunking urban legends. His sister disappears, and a dangerous online challenge called the Elevator Game They believe the online challenge, the elevator game, was responsible. To play the game, you must ride the elevator to in a specific sequence, invoking a supernatural creature called the Fifth Floor Woman. In an attempt to gain more information as the whereabouts of his sister, Ryan persuades the group to play the game once more and risk unleashing the most fearsome consequences imaginable. I have not watched a trailer for this yet, just kind of going based on the premise and the fact that it's coming out on Shudder on September 15th. Because Shudder's they usually have bangers. So, if this had come out, I don't know, early 2000s, it'd be like, that's probably going to be stupid. And who knows, maybe it still is stupid, but hopefully it's fun stupid. So we'll see how it turns out.
Okay, so that is the movies that are coming out September 15th. That is it. We had a lot of movies to cover. I don't know, next week. I always say every week's going to be a very light week. It's Wednesday. By the time it's Friday, we probably have 10 movies to cover. Who knows what'll happen. Any final words from you, Eric Holmes?
Yes, A Million Miles Away. Watch it.
Marisol.
Watch it. Actually, watch Marisol, and then you'll be in the perfect mood to want to watch something like A Million Miles Away. It's Marisol just took me down so much, put A Million Miles Away, and now I'm up again. Or maybe go the other way, however you want to do. But yeah, it's banger season. It's banger season. Also, get your script posters at finderfilmpodcast.com.
Chit-ching again. Bruce, just final comments from you, final thoughts from you.
Yeah, I got to pick something out of the box.
Oh, gosh, I keep forgetting that. Yes, my bad. It's a bit, folks. No, so this one's out. I always keep forgetting.
To be fair, we did talk about what's in the box. We just didn't pick a movie.
We just didn't pick it. What's in the box?
All right. Well, this is one that was put into the box by a suggestion from Maddie Doe.
Yes.
So this would have been suggested by her probably almost at least a year ago, if not 2 years ago, maybe. Yeah. At least a year ago.
Blow the dust off that piece of paper.
Yes. It's a movie from 1971 that she said was a really fun one to watch. I have seen it once, and I think it is a fun one to watch. It's Twins of Evil, directed by John Huff, or Howe, I don't know how to say it, 1971. I believe it might be a Hammer film. And if I remember correctly, the Twins of Evil are not the only twins in the movie that might catch your attention. If you catch my drift, hey. Okay.
The Barbarian twins show up.
Not very exactly. Good. The Barbarian twins. Look at that. It's like an old callback from 30 years ago. What, Bruce, did you put Paths of Glory in the box, by the way? That was the recommendation from the Dive director, Maximilian Erlenwein. So I don't know if you want to put something, you can put Maximilian Erlenwein - Paths of Glory. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Listeners, if you want,
I don't mind seeing that again. I haven't seen it probably for 10, 15 years. So
okay, yeah, put it. I'll definitely watch Paths of Glory.
The only good thing about getting older is that movies you've seen and loved are now have been a long time since you've seen them again.
Yeah, it's kind of like you talk about like Fight Club and Sixth Sense. It's like, oh man, I wish I could watch that movie again for the first time. But when you get old enough, you actually can.
You kind of can. Unfortunately, it's true.
Okay, so Paths of Glory, Maximilian Erlenwein. We'll put that in the box as well for hopefully one day Bruce will pick it out. If not, who knows what'll happen? Because listeners, you can also contact Bruce Purkey at our CinemAddicts Facebook group or email him at brucepurkey@gmail.com. Send him a couple of movies that you'd want for him to review on the box as well. That's it. We'll see you next week here on CinemAddicts. Take it away, Claire.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining CinemAddicts.